As I mentioned in our study yesterday, we have another one of those sandwich texts in Mark. Jesus had been arrested. His disciples had forsook him. They all ran. But Peter is kind of just following Jesus at a distance. He's just kind of trailing the arrest party. And so he cares. He wants to know what's going on with Jesus. And so he's brave enough to go into the court of the high priest to set by a fire with some of the servants where he could kind of keep an eye on what's going on with Jesus and that unjust trial that we looked at yesterday. And that's when we get to verse 66 and we see some of the events, some of the things that took place as Peter is sitting there by the fire. So let's read that. Let's read down in Mark 14:66. Now as Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came. And when she saw Peter warming himself, she looked at him and said, "You also were with Jesus of Nazareth." But he denied it, saying, "I neither know nor understand what you are saying." And he went out on the porch, and a rooster crowed. And the servant girl saw him again, and began to say to those who stood by, "This is one of them." But he denied it again. And a little later, those who stood by said to Peter again, "Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean, and your speech shows it." And then he began to curse and swear, "I do not know this man of whom you speak." And a second time the rooster crowed. Then Peter called to mind the word that Jesus had said to him, "Before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. And when he thought about it, he wept. Think about it. Peter's following Jesus, but just at a distance. Think about the analogy for us. I'll follow Jesus as long as it doesn't cost me anything. As long as people don't really have to think anything differently of me. As long as I really don't have to change anything in my life. As long as I don't have to suffer anything. I like the way things are. And so I'll follow Jesus and give me the blessings, give me salvation and redemption, but I really don't want it to have to cost me anything in my life. We don't want to be that way. But here's Peter in the courtyard, sitting around this fire with the servants, just hoping to blend in. But as he's sitting there warming himself, so is this little girl. And she's looking at him thinking, "You look familiar. You were with Jesus." And he says, "I don't know what you're talking about." We don't actually say that in common conversation unless we're lying. And so Peter gets up and goes to the porch. And this little girl just kind of follows him. He's hoping to get himself away, but this little girl's following him around. And she says to the bystanders, "He's one of them." And so he says, "No, I'm not." It says he denies it. But then the bystanders begin to say, "Surely you're one of them. You're a Galilean. We hear it in your speech. Your accent betrays you." And think about it. The more he denies Jesus, the more he speaks, the deeper of a hole he's digging himself in. And so this time he begins to curse and swear, "I do not know this man." And that's not the idea he begins to say curse words. That's not what he's doing. He's probably saying something like, "I swear to God, I do not know this man. May he curse me and kill me if I do." Think about what he's saying. "I swear to God, I do not know his son." What a horrible and terrible thing for him to say. It says, immediately the rooster crowed the second time. And Peter remembered what Jesus had told him would happen. And he thought about it and he wept. So what's really happened to Peter here? Just months ago, he declared him to be the Christ, the Son of the living God. He was the rock that Jesus was going to build the church upon. That confession was it. And just that night, he had argued with Jesus. He said, "I swear, I'll never deny you. I never fall away, even have to crawl up on the cross and die with you." And just minutes ago, he had drawn a sword to defend Jesus. Now he's invoking curses. He's swearing to God he doesn't even know who Jesus is. You want to talk about inconsistencies. That could be us sometimes. Sometimes we're the rock. And that's easily done when we're around Jesus and his followers. But then when the rubber meets the road, we're out in the world and the temptation hits, we become sand. And so we need to always be on guard. We shouldn't be sleeping, but we need to be watching and praying. We can't become overconfident, but we need to always be trusting and leaning on the Lord.